Okay, so I'm picking up some messages from Kali Ma, also known as Shakti. So I don't know if anybody, I don't know if you, whoever this message is for, I don't know if you know anything about Kali or Shakti, but I like Kali. I like to call her by Kali. But this, she's a Hindu goddess. But the thing is that they don't know what to define her as. So you know what they call her? They call her the black woman. Okay, so she's a hell of a woman. Like if I was a man, she would be my woman. So I say that because she is so dynamic and so diverse. She is divine femininity, both light and dark. So Shakti is when she's not in her Kali state. Her Kali state is her protector state. So she deals with like a lot of curses, hexes. She deals with a lot of demons. So she was known for, there was a very powerful demon. And this demon, whenever his blood was shed or hit the ground, the spirit of him would multiply. So Kali Shakti was called, and she went to a goddess to, well, she went to war when she found out that this powerful demon was wreaking havoc, right? So she took out everybody, but they started to multiply with the blood, because even when his little clones, when they bled, they would multiply too, right? So she went to her female goddess advisor, and so she was given the instruction as to what to do. So she was told to drink the blood of the demons. Okay, so she came back with this incredible force that nobody has ever seen ever. You know, it was like she was possessed. She went into this trance to where she was bloodthirsty. So she defeated this whole army by killing these men, these demons, and drinking the blood. And the power of this demon was just, it was very powerful. And so with every blood drop that she drank, she gained more and more power. You know, so she also defeated this army by dancing. And by dancing, she would shake the earth. She would shake the earth so bad that it would dismantle them. Now the thing is that when she defeated the army, she it's like she went into this trance, and she just continued to dance and dance and dance, to the point to where the rest of the world started to feel her dancing. And she started, like, they started to see she was breaking mountains, like she was going to cause the world total destruction. So her lover and her spiritual advisor Shiva, he laid down in front of her, right? And which means he laid down in front of her, he got in her path. So when she stepped on him and she looked down at him, she experienced humility. For one, for the man that she loves to see her in such a state. And it's kind of like she was so enraged and bloodthirsty, she forgot who she was. So the humility, the embarrassment that she felt for her lover and great spiritual advisor to see her in this state to where she would even step on him, the humility of that, that is what shifted and transformed her. And as a form of her humility, she sticks out her tongue. Okay, so in her Shakti state, she is the great lover, the mother, the soulmate, the partner. She's also a teacher. Okay, so that's just a little history. There's also another part of her to where she deals with tantric, and so we're going to get into that, because that is what is calling me. You know, if you know anything about tantra or tantric, or even the Kama Sutra, but it's not necessarily, I believe the Kama Sutra ties into that, but more so of the tantric, we're dealing with more so of the divinity behind sexual energy exchange. Okay, so she's also a teacher of that. So a lot of the times when individuals go through a Kundalini awakening, that's a very big awakening, because you are also introduced to tantric. So through our creative energy, and our creative energy is sexual energy, they go hand in hand. So through the Kundalini awakening, this is where we experience and we get to know more of our spiritual gifts. So the body is very important when we deal with Kundalini. You know, this is why a lot of individuals get into the yoga. Okay. So, and of course, Tantra, I mean, the Kundalini awakening has a lot to do with the spine. And so yoga helps focus on building and strengthening the spine. And from the spine, other body parts become strengthened too. Okay, so that's just a little something. So I'm just kind of picking up more on the creativity and the sexual energy. Okay, so there's these two individuals, and let's just call it what it is. Like, they're freaks, like big freaks, right? And I'm not talking about right. I'm not talking about like playful freaky. You know, some people are playful freaky, meaning that they're all over the place in the bedroom. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not exciting unless, you know, they're jumping all over the place. Okay, so I'm picking up a lot of stuff. Hold on. It's just taking me all over the place. I'm trying to stay focused. Okay, so when I talk about freaky with two individuals, the two individuals that I'm picking up on, there's almost like this sexual suppression, right? And there has been a connection that these individuals have made with each other to where it kind of ignites this fire between the two of them, but more so with the masculinity. So maybe more so with the man, but it doesn't matter, because the woman she could operate in more masculinity than the man, but it's more masculine. Okay, so I'm just going to go in and give you an example of, I'm just going, I don't think that is similar to this situation that I'm picking up on, but it does have a resonance, right? So there was this guy that I was talking to, and I mean, when we met, the connection was absolutely incredible, but it was incredible because I was forced to be rawly authentic, because this man has spirit guides, some strong ass spirit guides all around him. And I knew I was being watched, and I knew that they was there to protect him, and I had to be on my best behavior, you know? So I really had to just be my raw, authentic self. So, you know, that forced a lot of both me and him to kind of break down uncomfortable barriers right then and there, you know, which means that being extremely vulnerable with each other. Okay. So I could tell right away he was something, you know, he was pretty fragile. And if he has all this protection, you know, I need to make sure that I show my respect, you know. So it was very intimidating because I can pick up on shit. You know, I be nervous sometimes with socializing with people, and sometimes I can come off shy because it's just like, motherfucker, you just don't know who the fuck is around you. You know what I'm saying? You just don't know who is around you. And sometimes there are individuals to where they're walking around with spirits to where I can't even pick up on them. It's kind of like God has to tell me, or my spirit guides tell me, be careful how you treat this person. And that's all that the fuck they need to say. You know what I'm saying? So I just want you to understand how intense it was, but how very comfortable it was for me too to meet this dude. So, you know, it was very sexually intense between us, but the thing is that there was no feeling. You know, I'm not sitting there melting in my drawers or whatever, and he's, you know, he's not sitting there like all over me just hot and lusty. It was there though, you know. So the same night that we met each other, and we just sat in his car just talking, just getting to know each other, whatever, um, it got to a point to where, you know, he wanted to take me home. And I'm just like, you know, I had a really great night with you, but I cannot let you take me home tonight because I just don't know. His spirit guides knew that I was afraid. Okay. So when I did, reconnect with him, like when we got up with each other again, then that's when his spirit guides were trying to let me know, like, they know my spirit guides. Everybody is here. Everybody is present. Everything is going to be okay. Okay. But before he and I reconnected and hooked up, there was a time in between to where after we met that first night, we would text each other, but I could tell, like, he didn't want to text. Like, you know, some men, they don't like that shit. It's kind of like they want to be with you. They want to be in front of you. They want to be touching you while they're talking to you. They want to play with you. Like the phone shit just be so boring to him or something like that, or it's not attractive or exciting. So he really wasn't a texter. But then I began to notice like this irritation. And it's like this frustration, because he kept wanting to see me, but I could feel that it was not the time. You know what I'm saying? And he was getting upset. He was really getting upset. It just kind of seemed like he was getting upset about dumb stuff, right? So I'm trying to figure out what is his problem. So, when I asked to be enlightened about what his problem was, I experienced what he was going through within his body and in his mind. So I realized, I'm just like, damn, I feel the same way he does. It's kind of like we begin to secretly resent each other with not being in each other's presence or not being around each other. It's like we hated the fact that we weren't together. Like it just began to grow and fester between us. So finally, my spirit guides was just like, it's time. It's okay. So, and I had confronted him. I told him, I said, because we was like arguing and shit. And I was just like, how did it start off so good? And now like he fussing and shit at me, and, like he's upset. But it's kind of like he hated being away from me. There are some people that you meet to where when you meet them, you don't ever want them to leave. So that's how he was feeling. I was unsure. So yes, I was feeling that way. But at the same time, I never really experienced feeling that way before. So I couldn't really identify what it was. I had to study it through his behavior. So, I told myself, I said, you know what? I think I really like this guy because it's affecting me. He's affecting me. And I'm very empathetic. Yes, I'm affected by a lot of things, but I can turn it off. With this guy, it's like I couldn't turn it off. It seemed like our connection was stronger when we weren't talking to each other, when we were not in contact with each other. I could feel him just thinking about me all day, every day. He's thinking about what I'm doing and who I'm with. And, I could hear him in his head. She better not be with another man. Like, what if she meets somebody? You see, he was older. Okay. He was like, 50 years old. Okay. So, I'm just like, I really don't know what to think, because anytime that I dealt with an older man, it wasn't anything serious and they never wanted anything serious, so they've had a lot of practice, a lot of experience. It's kind of like, they, like me, they know how to turn it on and off. But it seemed like, I'm just like, damn, like the off button is broke with this dude, but I was liking it. Because obviously it was causing him some type of confliction or misunderstanding. And I was going through the same thing. So I'm just like, yeah, torn between the mind and the heart, because the heart is calling, you know. So when I realized that, I was just like, well, let me, of course I prayed on it, meditated, talked to God, my spirit guides, and they gave me sacrednicities and they opened up a window for me. It was like a portal. Because I told you, like, I'm not easily accessed to people, so it's kind of like, I think it's kind of like he knew that. It's kind of like, he knew. It's like he said to himself, if she get away, she gonna get away. Like, I can't let her get away or get distance. But at the same time, he told me, he's just like, I can't fall in love with you unless I know. Like, he had a problem with falling in love. He was a lover, but he was an extreme lover, and his extreme ways in loving caused him some trouble. which means that that nigga is not playing when it comes to his feelings. He's not the type of person to where you could play with his feelings. He wasn't emotional though, but I could feel with experiencing his body and his mind, he's very emotional. He just has control over it. But there was something about me to where it was shaking his foundation, and he didn't like it. And he was kind of getting scared too. So he opens up to me and he tells me, he's cautious about falling in love because when he falls in love, he falls in love. And he told me, he says, I will kill a man for you. I will kill a man behind you if when I'm in love. And I believe that. I think that that's what I knew, but I wasn't conscious of. That's why I was feeling like some type of fear or scariness because, you know, and my thing is like, well, when I fall in love, if I fall in love with you, you don't have anything to worry about. But at the same time, we hadn't had intercourse. It's not about sex. But what I know from my experience with dealing with men are a headache. And it's just like, when you're a headache, when I have to deal with you, when I have to be accepting of your ways and who you are, nigga, I need that, I need that D. You know what I'm saying? If you're not an easy brother to deal with, and I need that D. And I could tell he was not an easy brother to deal with. Very intense. He's emotional, but he's in control. But he's still, masculinity releases that energy through what they do. So he was martial arts, so a trained fighter, a trained protector. So I'm just like, you know, he liked to fight. You know what I'm saying? Even if he doesn't consider himself to be a fighter, he's been trained to fight. He loves what he do. You like to fight. So, I'm just like, oh. And when I hung out with him, he was doing some of his moves and he was doing that shit in my face. And I had asked him, I'm just like, have you ever put your hands on a woman before? And he was just like, I've had to defend myself from women, yes. And I'm just like, well, don't they know what you get into? He was just like, yeah, but that's why they tried to challenge me, which absolutely makes no fucking sense. Bitch, I'm not challenging no skilled martial artist. Like, what is wrong with you? So, shit can get real, real fast. And if that man is trained to defend, and the type of martial arts, it was jujitsu. It was like some type of jujitsu too, to where it's not just to back somebody off of you. These niggas is trying to break bones. You know what I'm saying? So I couldn't believe that. But when I had got around him, he was doing that shit in my face, and I felt myself like about to smack his ass. Cause it's just like, nigga, why are you playing? Like a little kid. You know what I'm saying? So then I realized, I said, you gotta be careful with him because he'll provoke a bitch to smack his ass. We're doing this silly shit. You're not supposed to be doing that. You're not supposed to be provoking, or you're not supposed to be playing in nobody's face, because if somebody gets irritated or they get nervous or scared or they have reflexes and they strike you back, in a way to where it kind of triggers you into your warrior, your warrior mind, then you gonna strike back, and you gonna strike back pretty hard. So I was just like, man, this thing, I could tell already, like, he gonna get on my nerves. So, I'm trying to tell you, I could tell already. It was certain things in the car. It was a lot of things that it was just fucking with me, and I'm just like, ugh. I'm like, man, this dick better be good, and the experience wasn't pleasurable, but it was just an experience. It wasn't meant for me to be with him. So, rather I experience pleasure with him or not, it doesn't matter, you know. But, after that experience, I'm just like, this is not something, that I can do. He just kind of held back, like sexually, but I mean, whatever. Okay, so when it comes to the two individuals that we're talking about right now, I'm talking about, it's like freaky, because there was a sparrow that had flew real close to me, and the sparrow, like, it opened its legs and it shitted, right? So the first thought I had, I'm just like, did somebody catch somebody taking a shit in public or something? You know what I'm saying? That's what I that was the first thing that came to my mind. But then I was guided to think about it, think about everything that I really saw with that bird. So this was Kali guiding me, and I'm just like, oh, the bird opened up its legs and it pooped. So that's going to represent, it's like female ejaculation, or it's going to represent like a man, he has a desire. Um, it's like he has a desire. I don't know, like he's visualizing ejaculating on a woman. Okay. So hold on, let me get my dog because he out there. Okay, so I just feel like maybe this person is like sexually suppressed. Maybe they practice some type of celibacy or something like that. But they have made a connection to somebody to where, or maybe, I feel like when it comes to a man, this man is like, I mean, he puts value on himself. You know, he knows his worth. He knows his abilities. He knows the effect in which that he has, on a woman. Some men are very sexually gifted, and when I say that, I'm talking about spiritually. I had an experience to where I met a guy, and when we were engaged in sexual intercourse, it felt like he was pulling something out of my vagina. It felt like he was pulling out some type of stuck, calcified kind of energy inside of me. And then on top of that, he was on Pound Town. I'm not really like Pound Town type girl, but when he was doing it, I was just like, damn, what is that? It physically, yeah, it felt good, but it wasn't the typical average human sexual experience. It literally felt like he was pulling something out of me. He was pulling that shit out, you know? And um I mean, of course, after then, I ejaculated or whatever. But and my thing is that, I all that pounding, I don't know. I'm not really into that. That doesn't really do too much for me. I guess it just depends on the person and your experience and how you feel about them. But, this was just like a quick little thing, a one-time thing. I wasn't expecting this. This was actually on Mother's Day one year, a couple of years ago. I was just like, wow, thank you for the gift. That was a gift. That was a gift. It wasn't necessarily like pleasurable, but because I'm very spirited, I could feel that shit and I appreciated that. When my body ejaculated, I couldn't understand why it did that because I didn't even feel like the orgasm coming in. Like I don't know. So this is what I'm saying. Like some men are very talented to where it's like you bless the womb. You can clear out certain sexual trauma that a woman has that she probably don't even know about. Women hold their most precious, valuable, strongest energy in their vaginas. So, oh, excuse me. So that's why they call it Yoniverse. Within her vagina is a whole universe. So when we get into tantric, yes, tantric is, it is has a lot to do with intercourse and intimacy and sexuality and all this type of stuff, but it's more so of a divine perspective around intercourse and intimacy. So just like I told you, with that experience with that guy, yeah, we were having intercourse, but it was more so of a spiritual orgasm than it was a physical. But everything non-physical manifests in physical. So when he was done pulling that bullshit up out of me, then it's like it was a plug. And when he pulled the plug out, that's when the water came out. And it was different because it was like a stream. With most women, when we ejaculate, that shit is like puddles, and the shit be splashing and shit, but with this, it was like a stream. And I sat there and I watched it because I'm just like, what is this? It was just like a clear stream, just coming out. It was perfect. It was like a stream. It wasn't splashes. It wasn't like pressure washer. You know what I'm saying? It was like a stream, very delicate, very soft. Like a fountain. Like I don't know, like you're supposed to put a cup under that shit and collect it or something. It was so neat and perfect, and it flowed in one direction. I had never seen that before. So these types of spiritual slash sexual experiences, you know, it's more. If you do your history, they used to have temples to where they would house yoni goddesses, and only spiritually elite men were able to be serviced by the yoni goddesses. So I just kind of feel like that's something here that's going on, like with this man. Like, you are a spiritual elite. So either you know that or you don't know that. And so you may notice that with women, you've had to kind of shut off the fountain, like not so much easy access, or you have to be careful about who you're intimate with and all this type of stuff like that. Maybe you're the type of person, because there are very creative men outside of the box to where they feel like anytime that they have sex, they're only supposed to procreate. They don't believe in just like having sex for pleasure. It's like every time they have sex, they want a baby. you know so anything outside of procreation, they're not really into it. But so it's like, if he has a structured way with dealing with the sexual relationship with himself, he's met somebody to where it's kind of like him or he, whoever, I'm going to say she, she brings something out of them. So when I was talking about the first guy, and I'm talking about like how we were secretly resenting each other because we were not in each other's presence. So the pull is extremely strong. And when you don't know or understand the pull, it can create the frustration. It creates the frustration. It creates the temptation of obsession, or wanting to possess somebody. They're obsessed with you. They want to possess you. They have to have you. You have to be theirs. The desire is just extremely and incredibly strong. It's like undeniable. And I want to tell you, you should not discriminate against who the vessel is, because the individual that cleansed my vagina, he's not the type of guy that I would date. You know, I have been knowing this dude ever since I was 19, but he's always in the wind. He's always traveling. He's from New York, so he would just be back and forth between New York and Virginia. And he was very good looking. He was tatted down. He was light skinned. He had nice wavy hair, and he had like icy blue eyes. Sometimes some ships would be brown. So I mean, he was real wild. You know, he would ride his motorcycle, and he would be here, he would be there, just everywhere, all over the place. It would be spontaneous whenever we met each other. Sometimes he would see me walking on the street, and he's just like, yeah, get in the car, let's go here, let's go there. So he might take me out to eat. In the beginning, when I was dealing with him, he was very like sexually adventurous, like in the car, at his place of work. One day we were walking, and there was an abandoned house, and there was a shed in the back, and he's just, he's like, come on, like anytime, any place, anywhere. Then he had a dildo, which was really questionable, you know, and he had like a whole bunch of tapes of his experiences. And, you know, in the beginning, the earlier years, I would go on his computer. All I saw was porn and him like hooking up with girls and stuff. So, I mean, so, he's not, he's damn sure not husband material, honey. And, I'm not gonna really get involved with somebody who I don't think or see or feel like it's something that can be long term. So usually I just won't even be bothered with them. You know what I'm saying? But there would be years that went in between us to where we saw each other. And whenever we saw each other, I mean, he was cool. He was a nice guy. You know, he always looked out for me. You know, we did acid together, shrooms together. He was a good time. So, even though he wasn't something that I saw pursuing long term, I mean, he was a cool guy. He was a nice guy. He was a good guy to be around. So, and I don't really, it, I don't know. I don't really like the bad boys. He just kind of had like this bad boy image, and he just kind of had like this hood thing going on, and it just kind of seemed a little reckless. Like that's definitely, that's not me. But with me not judging him and allowing myself to have that experience, I'm like, damn, I didn't even know he had this talent. That shit is a talent. That's a gift. And I was very appreciative of that. That was the last time that we saw each other. I think that will be the last time that we see each other too. I had known him for about 15 years, but like I said, well, 19, I think the last time I hooked up with him, I was like 33. So yeah, well, no, not 15, but I mean. So in between those years, I had only seen him, we had only met up like 10 times. So, and that's why I be telling people, like, don't judge a book by its cover. You know what I'm saying? And even when you deal with somebody who's hyper sexually active, like, some people don't know the talent that they possess. They don't know. And when you don't know your gift, it's kind of like your gift will grow, but you're not utilizing your power. So with not utilizing your power, it's like your gift begin to eat you from the inside out. The power of your gift grows, and so it's like it consumes you. You may start going through things in your body. Your skin starts looking dim, or it's real achy and real stiff and all that type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Your body just start really going through stuff. And so when it comes to tantra, they're the same thing, but I'm just saying, like, it's about body movement. Needing like body movement. So I like to dance. um when I dance, my spirit guides like when I dance. So I always create some type of ritual. But that is the woman, you know. So if we take a woman and a man and we put them next to each other and we give them instructions on a specific dance, you're going to see somewhat of the serpent come out of the woman, to where her movements flow, right? So when it comes to the man is more so of a stepper. So when the dance instructor moves to the left, the feminine energy glides to the left, and the masculine energy steps to the left, if you get what I'm saying. So I just kind of pick up something here about body movement, because energy can start getting pent up in your body. And when it start getting pent up in your body, it will affect you, like, mentally and mentally and spiritually. So sometimes we can experience spiritual constipation when we're not moving our body. And you don't have to do yoga, dance, or work out, or do Pilates or anything like that. It's just, but you need to be moving. There needs to be some type of activity that you have, like, every day, you know, and you want it to be therapeutic. So going for a walk, going for a hike, that's a part of good mental health. What is good mental health? Bringing more relaxation to the brain, letting go of shit that you can't control. Like letting go of the stupid shit that people try to do, right? Because the ego, the ego can be your number one, I'm not going to say downfall, But it can be your number one hindrance when it comes to your mental health, right? Because let's say somebody, they say something, impolite to you. The ego gets triggered and it's just like, oh, we got to protect. They offended us because what the person said may have made you feel not good. So when you don't have that feel good feeling, it sends a signal to your brain. Okay, so the ego is triggered. So the ego says, oh, well, we have to protect and defend our feelings. So this person took a shot at us, so we're going to take a shot at them. Now it just kind of becomes like this unnecessary war of, who's right, who's wrong, or who's stronger, who's better, you know what I'm saying? You know, like I tell people, just pick and choose your battles because every energetic invitation you don't have to show up for, and this is how we begin to walk ourselves and guide ourselves into, more peace. Change is the inevitable. Life is gonna be life, and shit is gonna happen in life. Things are gonna be up. It's gonna be down. When it comes to finances, 1 minute is real lucrative. Look, 1 minute is real lucrative, and then the next minute is real like dry. So with the up and down of life, these are the challenges, and human nature. It's in us to react to the things that we don't like or when things are not going right for us. So when you begin to work on your mental health with finding more relaxation, just relax. You'll find more solutions to your problems. And the more you find solutions, it's kind of like the better your mental health gets because there's always a solution to a problem. I mean, I think if it's out of your control, if it's done and if it's over, then it's done and it's over. But I mean, for the most part, relaxation. Sometimes people want a certain lifestyle, but that lifestyle is stressing you the fuck out. So therefore, your mental health is constantly like up and down. There's no stability. There's really no peace. There's always ripping and running and worrying and thinking and gotta go here, gotta go there, gotta do this, gotta do that. You know what I mean? Then as human beings, we are impressionable on each other. So you got friends, they got this, they got that, they got this big condo, they got these cars and all that type of stuff. And then when you look at yourself, it's just like you live in an apartment with a Camry. So now it's kind of like, oh, I got to be like my friends. I got to be equivalent to them. All of that is causing stress on the brain. This is, self-love and self-care, self-acceptance, self-appreciation. These things keep you in love with you, focused on you. A lot of it has to do with what you are focusing on. When you are someone who has a very high sex drive, you have a lot of energy, a lot of creative energy. And you can channel that sexual energy into different, you could just channel it in different ways. And you can use creativity to do this. You'll find yourself being more of a well-rounded person. Because, yeah, you're having sex, but you're not having too much sex. You're not having sex to the point to where you're dissipating your partner. Or, you're depending on your partner to relieve you of all the stress and all of the overwhelming, the oppression, the things in which that you may be suppressing or avoiding, things that are getting on your nerves, because you're giving all of that energy to your partner. You know what I mean? And it's like the focus is not on loving them. The focus is on relieving yourself. So if you think about it, it's like you're just using that person to just dump off your toxic bad energy and you transfer that to your partner. Okay, so with somebody like me, I know how to alchemize that. And because I work a lot with energy, like when it comes to me and my son's father, if it's something going on with him, with his energy, if I could tell he's under attack or there's some type of attachment, like I could just kind of see it, So whenever we do what we do, his energy gets transferred to me. but I'm not affected by it because I know what to do with it. Okay. Now the thing is that I would do that for practice. But then I begin to notice I'm just like, I'm doing all of the work for him. I'm doing all of the mental work for him. Everything that's going on with him that he's dealing with, it's like now I'm his toxic trash can. So then I ended up figuring out a way as to how I could do this for him without the physical. Okay. But I'm gonna just tell you straight up, when somebody don't work on their mental health, it's a burden. It's a burden to everybody around them. So, a way as to how we can protect our peace of mind is to connect and be with people who are good for your mental health. People you can talk to, people you can be yourself with. Somebody you can just relax around. Somebody who accepts you, somebody who appreciates you. But in order for us to be able to identify these types of people, we have to first create this for ourselves. And when we talk about creator, when we talk about sexual energy, you're creating your inner world. And your inner world will reflect in your soulmates because your soulmates are your reflections. So you'll be able to see who is who and what is what, creating clarity. Okay. So, so when it comes to the two of you, I just feel like, the connection is out of this world. The two of you may be able to talk for hours. The two of you may be able to love on each other for hours. The two of you may be able to just like really be around each other like a lot. It's very close. It's very bonded. And so it's kind of like with the distance, it's not fulfilling. So what is really happening is it's like kindred spirits. Child, I don't know. I feel that must mean the two of you are in alignment. You're in alignment with yourselves. And so everything about you, when it comes to the two of you, is so connected. It doesn't feel good, or it doesn't feel fulfilling without this person, without you having this person. It feels like you're incomplete, but you know that you are complete. But the feeling contradicts the knowing. That has a lot to do with the flesh. You know what I mean? So I'm not here to advise you as to what to do. I'm more so here to explain to you the connection and what you're feeling and what you're going through. You need to accept that, you are in love with somebody that you don't want to stay away from. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. That helps keep people focused. So if you guys live together, you always look forward to coming home. There's always something that person is why you come home. You may even go to the job and bring them some coffee or bring them lunch. You know what I'm saying? It's real considerate. It's very thoughtful. Like you're always, you think about this person a lot. You feel this person a lot. It's a beautiful, blissful thing. It's like a rainbow. It's like a double rainbow. You ever see a double rainbow? You see a rainbow and then you see another one like over top of it. That's what the two of you are. So you need a lot of patience with each other. You need a lot of patience with yourself. You may tell yourself that you don't need a lot of space. Maybe you don't need a lot of space, but you do need to be able to have your space, because you still need time for the relationship with you. That is what keeps you in alignment. I think that's how people get distracted, or they start dealing with distractions, because they're not in alignment, and they don't stay in alignment with themselves. Because it's nice when you have somebody, to where they help you with loving yourself. How do they do this? You know, you don't have to, this person can tell you that you're beautiful or you're handsome, you know, so that relieves you of, you know, like having to feel like you have to do all the work with keeping yourself looking good. You know, like this person is just like, I like you when you're cleaned up, and I like you when you're raw dog. That is support. So now you can relax. You know, oh, I don't always have to be so well put together. You know what I'm saying? Like this person, you see, that's just an example. That's just one example. But it's about, you know, somebody loving you as much as you love yourself. You know, you may be self motivated, but, you know, somebody comes along, you know, this person is just like, well, you don't have to do it by yourself. I like encouraging you, I like uplifting you, you know? So, well, shit, I think I done rant and rave and ranted for a long time, but I have been called to give that message. Okay, so we're going to end it here, and until the next time, we'll talk again. Thank you.